Howdy, gang, and welcome to another Kubrick Among Us. Now, those of you with a sharp eye may have noticed that this went from being two movies to one movie. And that is because I discovered, unfortunately, kind of late in the game, that both Spartacus and Lolita were, around 2 hours or over 2 hours. In the case of Lolita, it was about 2 hours and 33, 34 minutes. And I just thought, well, why don't I split these up? And I'll do Lolita since I started watching it a little bit earlier today. It is available on Tubi in case you want to check it out. And I will cover Spartacus by itself tomorrow night. So I hope that people aren't too disappointed that I'm not going to be covering both of the films. And I'm hoping that Steve lets me hold on to his steelbook of Spartacus until such time as I get time to watch it. Now, again, as I said last night, I don't expect really anybody to be in here. My viewership has fell off drastically, and guys and gals, I'm going to keep doing this stuff, but I ain't gonna lie, it's disappointing to me, and I have ideas about why it's happening, and I apologize well, no, I'm not going to apologize because people have made fun of me in the past for apologizing for things. So I'm not going to apologize. But if I sounded a little miffed last night, I'll be honest, I have been miffed. I've been miffed at a lot of situations that have been going on in the last few months. And I think that those situations have directly contributed to my audience downfall. And perhaps I will gain a new audience. Maybe I'll get some of that audience back that left for whatever the reason may be. But I'm not going to give up and lie down and just take it. I'm going to keep putting these things out here. I'm going to get tough. I'm going to get tough on myself because I can't allow myself to just give up because, of certain circumstances. Certain circumstances that I don't feel I'm at liberty to speak about, nor do I really want to speak about. But I just want to say this before I get into the stream tonight, and then I will shut up about it, is that I want everybody to know, whether you are a new person or you were watching me a few months ago, if you want to come into these streams, you are welcome to. Don't be afraid of anybody. Don't be afraid of me. Don't be afraid of anybody else. If you want to come in here and see what I'm talking about, you are entirely welcome to. And, I was able to put up a good front for a little bit. And I'm still not going to talk about specifics because I don't think that that's doing anybody any favors. But I would just like to say that if anybody is feeling swayed or I don't really want to use the word coerced, but if you're being swayed or pushed to not come into my streams for whatever reason, I want you to know that you can do whatever you want to do. Okay. You're free to come into my streams or anybody else's streams. And if anybody is unsure of my character as a human being, You are welcome to talk to me in private about it. I am not going to go public and talk and air dirty laundry. I said that last night. Um, so I'm not going to do that. But if anybody has any questions about what kind of person I am, I would implore you to come to me and talk to me, and I'll tell you the straight of it. Okay? Please don't go on hearsay. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm no longer going to apologize. I'm just going to tell everybody the straight of everything. Okay? But I'm not going to I'm not going to air dirty laundry and talk about stuff in public and on these streams. But if you want to ask me something, you are welcome to ask me in private all you want, and I will tell you the truth. Okay? So, again, that's all I'm going to say about that business. And we're going to move on to what's coming up. I haven't talked to Candace again just yet about Friday Foolish, but I think she sent me a message a little bit earlier. I haven't had a chance to listen to it because I was trying to finish up Lolita so I'd be, prepared to talk about it. So I will be discussing that with her. I will know more tomorrow. I know I don't have anything out just yet. And I apologize that I can't just, say for sure we're going to have Friday Foolish tomorrow or not. And that this is not Candace's fault. It's not my fault. It's just poor Candace. Has had strep. She may still have strep. Like I said, I haven't yet talked to her today. She's very, very busy. I'm very, very busy as well. So I know I hate to leave things up in the air, but that's unfortunately how it's going to have to be until we figure out things, and things may slow down in the fall and winter months for everybody. In fact, as I said last night, that people may start to come back and start to watch again when the cooler weather sets in and people are, still in summer mode. Um, Believe me, it's been warm enough around here in Louisville, Kentucky, to, have 3 summers worth of stuff. And, frankly, I'm tired of hot weather. I'm ready for cooler weather. I think, Blissel, haven't you had some cooler weather up where you are? And we both have been very busy, Blissful. That is correct. Not only, have certain projects and illness and different things caused us to be preoccupied. But, ooh, yeah, 70s and high 60s. Yeah. Ours has been getting into the upper 70s and into the 80s. And I'm just like, ugh. And then this dang hurricane, it's been hanging around too. But Candace, and I don't think she would mind me mentioning this on here, or at least I hope she wouldn't. But Candace has been taking some college classes. She's going full bore college. And I'm very, very proud of her for doing that. And so that's a busy thing. She homeschools her son. So she's not only doing homework for herself, but she helps her son with his homework. Life is busy for everybody, pretty much. But we don't want to give up on Friday Foolish. We both enjoy doing it. So it's not going to go away. I just can't, unfortunately, guarantee anybody at this point whether we're going to be doing this tomorrow or not. Yeah, I'm very proud of her too, Blissful. It's a huge step to take, But I think that Candace is fully up to the challenge. And so, yes, I am very, very proud of her. Um, I think a lot of us are proud of her. Ooh, yeah, category 4. Yeah, I'll be saying some prayers now. How do the hurricanes affect you guys, Blissful? Because I've never been in New York, so I'm not sure how all that affects. And Blissful is upstate New York, so I'm not sure about that either. So, but we also, just on Sunday, because I'm trying to make up for the fact that last week I wasn't feeling up to doing Phenomena, and Candace wasn't, and Chris wasn't either. And so we just, well, I made the final decision. Hey, Phil, um, we kind of collectively decided that it might be better to wait on this. So, not having to watch long on Saturday, but Sunday will be Dario Argento's Phenomena. So be sure to carve out some time in your schedule. That will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, Russell. You say, hey, Dana, love, you're not too old to learn. Well, it's Candace that's taking the classes, but, I have, taken some college classes here and there, especially when I was working for libraries in order to get my library certification. I took several college classes. But anyway, is everybody ready to get to Lolita from, I believe it's 1962. It is a black and white film. Um, it's based on a book, a novel by Vladimir Nabokov, and I'm probably massacring that guy's name. Of course, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring James Mason, Shelley Winters, and introducing Sue Lyon as Lolita. Now, in succeeding years, we've heard the term Lolita, um, and I'm not sure what's going on with my internet. So if I'm popping in and out, or things seem kind of funny, the little signal thing popped up on there. So hopefully it doesn't kick me out, and hopefully it doesn't mess this up too bad. It could be the weather or something like that, but well, it popped off there now. So hopefully I wasn't, getting dicey and doing all that mess. So, but like I was saying, nowadays, or in succeeding years since that movie came out, the term Lolita was usually used to describe a girl or a young woman who was, precocious, I guess sexually emancipated. Um, in fact, whenever I was looking up Lolita, the Kubrick film, um, there was a 1997 remake called Lolita. I didn't get a chance to watch it to compare it. But also, does everybody remember the Amy Fisher story? Her and Joey Buttafuoco, and they had that hot and steamy affair, and she ended up shooting his wife, Mary Jo, in the head, face. It was a big deal when that happened. But Amy Fisher was referred to as the Long Island Lolita. And I'm guessing that stuff kind of stemmed off from these old movies and books and things like that. But in the film Lolita, the Kubrick film, the girl's name is actually Lolita. It's not a term that's used. It is her name. Um, and I was doing some reading, and in the book, the girl is 12, which I guess is why they didn't say, hey, this is a 12-year-old. They didn't try to portray this girl as a 12-year-old. Evidently, she's supposed to be 14, but I believe Sue Lyon was older. Um, than that. Um, because there's certain things that are discussed in this movie. There's not really anything shown, just things are hinted at. Um, and one of the things that people kept writing about, not necessarily on IMDb or anything, but other people were writing about it, and the book may have been more explicit, which kind of makes me uneasy because in the book, evidently it was dealing with a 12-year-old. So if they were talking about sexual activity with a man and a 12-year-old, I'm sorry, but that's statutory to me. I'm not putting down the writer of the book, and I don't think the book should be banned, but I'm sure the book was controversial at the time. Yes, Jeremy Irons was in the 1997 remake, Russell. You are correct. Blissel, you say I like the original movie better than the new movie. I can't say, like I said, that I've seen the 1997 one yet. I may go back later and watch that and do a comparison. Blissel says, Russell, I couldn't think of Jeremy Irons. Hey, Steve, why do you got the crying emoji, by the way? But anyway, while I'm waiting for my dear husband to answer, I'll go back to this. But James Mason plays a professor who is obviously, it's infatuation at first with this girl. The first time he sees her, he comes to his landlady's house, played by Shelley Winters. And all I can think about with Shelley Winters is when she was, I think she played like Nana. They called her Nana on Roseanne. And I can tell that the young Shelley Winters, that's the same woman. But that's all I can think of is when she was on Roseanne for a few years. But anyway, Shelley Winters plays the landlady, and she's showing, James Mason's character around her house, and she has a very luxurious house. Obviously, the lady's got some money, and they go out back. She wants him to see her garden, and her daughter Lolita is sunbathing in a two-piece bathing suit, and that is the first image that James Mason gets of her. All right, and he's just so taken with her. And Sue Lines is an attractive young woman. There's no doubt about that. She's cute. But something I could never wrap my head around is why so many men, and it wasn't just James Mason's character. Peter Sellers is in this movie playing a character named Quilty. And Quilty is a very odd person, and he keeps showing up as different characters, and I can't understand why James Mason can't figure out that, hey, that's that guy, that's that same guy. He poses as different characters. There's a policeman's convention that's going on in a hotel at one point, and Quilty is there, and Quilty is acting like he's a policeman that is at this convention. And in another scene, I think he's playing a psychiatrist, like a German or a German psychologist rather. And I'm like, does James Mason not, is he losing his mind, or what is he so obsessed with this young woman that he cannot discern that this is Peter Sellers all over the place? This is Quilty everywhere. Russell, you say you had to do an essay on the book in high school, got a B+. Well, that's a very good grade to get on an essay, Russell. Those essays aren't easy a lot of times, and depending on the teacher that you have. and how they're grading and all that. I had a tough English teacher my senior year of high school. She was really tough. Or book report. Well, you can call them essays too. I think that fits. So James Mason becomes ever increasingly obsessed. He cannot get this girl out of his head. And so it escapes him for a while that his landlady, Miss Hayes, is in love with him. And she tries everything she can do to get him. And the only way that she is able to marry him is that she leaves a letter with the maid for him. And then she goes away. And it's a confessional letter. She says that I was in love with you the first time I saw you. And he starts laughing. And the more he reads the letter, the more he laughs hysterically. And she's pouring out her heart. This is where I got mad at James Mason, because this poor woman is pouring her heart out to him. And he's laughing. He's not laughing in her face, but he's laughing at her words. And I could think of nothing more hurtful than you pouring your heart out to somebody and them laughing. So he's only interested in her daughter. He could care less about Miss Hayes. And she says in the letter that I fully don't expect you to be there when I get back, but if you are, it must mean that you are in love with me too. And so the next thing you know, they're married. But again, he only has eyes for Lolita. And he writes in a diary that he keeps locked up in a drawer, even after he's married to Miss Hayes. He continues to write in it about Lolita. And it must be some pretty spicy stuff. And one of the next scenes we see, it's like he's obviously trying to avoid the woman he has married. He goes and locks himself in the bathroom, and he's writing in that stupid diary. And I guess he makes the mistake of leaving the drawer open, or she finds the key and gets in there. He just virtually ignores her. But he comes into the room to find her reading all of his stuff in this diary. And he is referred to Miss Hayes as the cow, my landlady, the cow, and stuff like that. And I'm like, how reprehensible are you, dude? And James Mason was really good in this. I love James Mason's acting. And James Mason was a good-looking guy at this point in time in like 1962, right? But that character was so horrible, in my opinion. I just literally could not stand him. The more and more the movie went on, I got more and more angry with him. Now, Miss Hayes, the character of Miss Hayes, played by Shelley Winters, she acted, sometimes she would act immature, but I think she was a very lonely lady because she was widowed. Her husband had died. And she was doing what a lot of women well, maybe not a lot of women, but some women have done when their spouses died. I don't want to say they tried to jump on to the next best thing, but they're so lonely that they're willing to latch on to any little breadcrumb. Russell, you said this reminds us of A Pretty Baby with Brooke Shields. I haven't seen that one. I need to watch that, Russell. Um, but she gets angry with Lolita because she's trying to put the moves on James Mason in one scene, and Lolita is supposed to be um as staying at a friend's house overnight. And she comes home unexpectedly and kind of ruins the evening for her mother. So her mother is understandably upset. How many of you guys as kids, messed up an evening for your parents, or somebody else in your family? I'm sure you've done it at one point or another. How's the weather, Russell? Well, the weather's okay here right now. We had a breeze today. We had a wind advisory, but oh goodness, so far I haven't seen a lot of wind. Just kind of a medium to light breeze. Um, there might be some rain this evening, tonight, and tomorrow early. Um, but so at some points, Mrs. Hayes acts like a spoiled child, who doesn't get something that they want. Um, and other times she acts like a stern mother who has to get on her daughter for doing things that she knows that she oughtn't to do, right? So, um, so when Mrs. Hayes finds all that stuff that James Mason's character has been writing about her and writing about Lolita, she calls him a criminal and stuff. We can only imagine what else he may have said about Lolita. But calling Miss Hayes a cow, it's like my landlady the cow. I mean, how mean can you get? And so any sympathy I may have had for James Mason's character went out the window completely at that point. But he still was obsessed over Lolita. And unfortunately, Mrs. Hayes just goes out the middle of the street and just basically steps in front of a car and is killed. So what does James Mason do? He goes to the school where Lolita is and doesn't tell her mother's dead. He says that she was in an accident and she's in the hospital, and he's come to get Lolita and take her to see her mother in the hospital. Well, somewhere along the way, he finally tells her, your mother is dead. And it's not the way you would know a normal person would tell some child that one of their parents is dead. It's very cold, I think. And so in the succeeding scenes, we see Lolita, crying and stuff because she obviously loved her mother. They didn't get along at times, but she still loved her mother. Her mother would call her a brat. She would say things to her mother. I mean, we've all been there, done that. I'm sure Blissful knows. I know. Um, Mothers and daughters. That's something there. Um, so, uh, so, oh goodness, so sorry, guys. But the story moves along, and this car is following um, Lolita and her quote unquote stepfather, and we find out that that's Quilty. The Quilty has been following them everywhere and showing up at different places and stuff like that. And again, I cannot figure out why James Mason could not figure out that was the same guy, right? And Peter Sellers, this is probably the sleaziest I have ever seen Peter Sellers in a movie. Um, it, he was much younger than I remember him being in anything else that I've seen. And so Peter Sellers as Quilty, just very sleazy, slimy, underhanded character in this. And he seems to have a nervous demeanor where he talks real fast and tries to, I guess he's trying to be shady in order to get his way about things. So, Lolita eventually ends up getting ill with a flu or something. She ends up in the hospital. And when James Mason comes to pick her up at the hospital, the nurse on duty tells him, well, you've got to wait till the doctor, gives the go ahead to release her. And then when the doctor comes out there, he says, oh, don't you remember? He tells the nurse her uncle came by and took her. And that was Quilty, and Quilty was not her uncle. And so I'm not sure how many years go by before James Mason hears from Lolita again, maybe 3 years or something. And Lolita has met a man, Dick, and she's evidently fallen in love with him. They've gotten married. She's going to have a baby. And she writes to James Mason and she says, dear Dad, we, we're flat broke. I'm going to have a baby. We don't have enough money. Can you please send us a check? And so he actually goes to the house and he brings her a check and some other money, up to $13,000 worth. And back in 1962, I'm sure that was a whole heck of a lot of money. People would consider themselves rich with that kind of money. I'd like to have that kind of money now, but I don't. But I'm sure back in 1962, that was quite a bit of green there. So, and then it's at that point in time that she takes James Mason aside and she tells him about Quilty. And basically, Quilty must have taken advantage of Lolita several times. So in many, many ways, Quilty, that character was worse than James Mason's character, in my eyes. Because it almost point blank said that Quilty, took advantage of her, and probably took her virginity and all that. And these are two grown men. Now, other reviews that I read or writings on it, and again, if you've read the book and you know the ins and outs of the novel, maybe it went into deeper detail. Maybe it talked about rape. I don't want to say it too much, but I won't mention it again. But basically people said that James Mason's character in the movie, that's what he did to her, right? And so I never got that from the movie, that he did that, but I did get that indication from Quilty, the character of Quilty, that he could have went that far. And, Lolita tells him, yeah, that was Quilty that was following us in that black car. He was the one that showed up at that policeman's convention. He played the German psychologist. And why he did this, I don't know. I don't know if the guy was supposed to be suffering from some mental issues or what the deal was. But he was a very nervous, kind of slightly annoying, backwards, but also a very sleazy character. So the first scene that you see, and I am going to give away some spoilers, people. So if you haven't seen this movie and you want to politely step away, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, we're going to go forward here. So, the beginning scenes of the movie, James Mason makes his way to a dilapidated old house, and it's there that a very drunk Quilty is hiding out there, and he kills Quilty. And then we go into the flashback sequences, essentially. And then there is a written epilogue at the end of the movie that says that James Mason's character in the film went to prison um, for killing Quilty, and he died basically of a heart attack in prison while he was serving time for the murder of Quilty. So all of this mess caused by one young woman. And I will say that although this wasn't exactly like the movie The Crush, any of y'all remember the film The Crush with Alicia Silverstone and Carrie Yules? I really like that movie, but the first time we see Lolita in her two-piece bathing suit on the lawn, it reminded me so much of those scenes where um, Alicia Silverstone is in that pink checkered bathing suit. Um, and I don't know, it just kind of a similar look they both had. Well, Russell, I like that. Oh, okay. You said there's another film called Phenomena in 1996 with John Travolta. Yes, there is. Yeah, I remember that film. I haven't seen it for a long time. Um, Blissful, you say, I've never read the book. It was all kinds of wrong to me. Yeah, I mean, as I was reading about the movie, even before I, watched it all, it was almost like, I'm sorry, I keep yawning, guys. Um, I was almost like, do I want to keep going with this movie or not? But it turned out to be a pretty decent movie. I think Kubrick handled the material very, very well. And the writer of the novel was also one of the writers on the film. So, got to give, uh, kudos to the writer as well. And, I might like to check out the book just as a comparison with the movie at a later time. But I got to prepare myself for it before I try to read it. But yeah, I totally get that. Um, Russell, they made y'all read the book Lolita in school. I'm surprised that they would have let y'all read that. Blizzle, you say I read the Novelia Breakfast at Tiffany's. It ruined the film for me. LOL. Yeah, sometimes, um, like, see, that's what happened with me and Forrest Gump. Only the book didn't ruin the film Forrest Gump for me. I still to this day love Forrest Gump, and Tom Hanks is one of the big reasons why I love that film so much. His portrayal of Forrest Gump was just fantastic. But then when I read the book, um, the way Forrest Gump was cussing in it and talking about himself, talking about playing with himself and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I like the innocent uh, Forrest Gump that Tom Hanks played, right? Yeah, you're like me, Blissful. I hate to talk about Winston Groom and his writing abilities, but that's just not a well written book. I think what Robert Zemeckis and all those people did to create the cinematic version of Forrest Gump was just utter genius. That movie is cinematic genius to me. Um, I have, Breakfast at Tiffany's, I've never seen the movie. I should watch it. But I guess I'll go ahead and give my rating now that I've blabbed for about 40 minutes. Um, I think I'm going to go ahead because this was a well-made movie. It kept my attention and all that. And it might be something that I want to go back to at a later time. But I'm going to give it 4 deadites out of 5. Just because I think it's worth that. It's worth that rating. I wasn't going to give it my top one, but I think it fully deserves 4 deadites out of 5. Blizzard, you say Dana, watch it just for the fashion alone. Okay. Blitzler, you say it's the same with practical magic. The movie and the book is completely different. Now, most of the time, I like the book a lot better than the movies, just because a lot of times there's so much more substance in the book than they could ever put into a movie. But I'll probably give it a couple more minutes, gang. And if anybody has any questions, again, you can watch Lolita right now. You can watch both the 1962 Kubrick version and you can watch the 1997 version with Jeremy Irons as well as watching the Long Island Lolita about Amy Fisher, if you choose to. Russell, you said the girl in the remake film is named Dolores, which is okay, but I thought it interesting, that the young woman was Lolita in the original film. But I guess, they didn't want to make it exactly the same. Oh, goodness. I am so sorry, Gary. I wasn't that tired earlier, but later, every time I sit down, usually I start getting tired anymore. I don't know what the deal is with me. Thank you, Russell. I appreciate you saying it was a great stream. Steve never did tell me why he was crying, or maybe that was a laughing emoji with tears coming out of it. I don't know. I don't even know if Steve's still in here. He's on the clock at work, so he may have not been able to respond, or he may have got called away or something. But again, if y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them to the best of my ability. But I'm probably going to call it a night here in another minute or so. Good night, Russell. Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. And next week, remember, we'll be talking about Spartacus. It was just 2 long movies. I didn't think I was going to make it through 2 really long movies, neither of which I had seen before, and be able to talk about them. So I opted to just settle on one. So, well, I guess that's it from me for tonight. But I want to thank everybody that was in the chat, Russell and Blissful and my dear husband, everybody that may have been watching. Because, like I say, you don't have to chat necessarily if you just want to watch and see what I'm talking about. Thank you, Blissful. I appreciate that a lot. And I also want to say thank you to the people that will watch this on the replay. I hope there are a few of you that will watch it on the replay. And again, remember what I said earlier, in case there are some of you in here now that didn't hear me when I was talking about stuff earlier, that if you had stayed away for a while, or, if you see this later and you haven't been coming into my streams because you are not sure about my character and what kind of person I am, I implore you, I'm not going to talk about anything on here live because that's just not the way I want to do things. And I don't want to air dirty laundry. But if you have any questions about my character as a human being, what kind of person I am, if you think I'm a bad person, please talk to me. Come to me in private, and you don't have to necessarily tell me somebody told you something. You can just say, you know, I heard this. I don't know if it's, true, or I heard something. You don't even have to tell me what it was. If you want to say, I heard something bad about you, or I heard you did this or that, is this true? And I'll give you the straight of it. Like I said, I just don't want anybody staying away because uh, they may have heard things that are untrue about me. So I know people that know me personally or have known me for a long time know me better than that. They know that I'm not a bad person. But um, yeah, I'll just leave it there. But, I'm not going to apologize anymore for anything. I'm just going to be tough and straight with people and go on and do my thing on here, and try to do it to the best of my ability. Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says Dana is an amazing person. Blissful's always there for me. Candace is always there for me. Many of you in these chats are there for me. Oh, and Phil, I forgot to say that I was happy that you showed up as well. I don't want to leave anybody out. But I guess that's all for me. I'm all talked out, and I guess I better get some rest. But I'm off like a dirty shirt. Again, this shirt's not dirty, but I am off like a dirty shirt. But before I get off here for the night, I want to remind everybody, as I always do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. See everybody next time.